Hey. Time for another Out of This World story from rSpace. We can't always be the hero, but that doesn't stop people from trying. Today on rSpace, people think money buys you happiness. You be the judge. Girlfriend cheated on me with college senior, so I cut off her college fee. She had to drop out. I never thought I would share something like this publicly, but here we are. I guess I'm just trying to process and get over what happened and move on as soon as possible because this thing shattered me mentally and physically. I work in a healthcare center as a registered dietitian. That's where I met Jules, my girlfriend, of 3 years. She worked there as a receptionist. I got instantly attracted to her because of her humble and polite behavior. Not only that, she was way smart to be a receptionist. Humbleness and politeness was a trait required for a receptionist, but her ability to take up multiple tasks was amazing. She soon started taking care of the accounts and other office work at the healthcare center. I asked her out for dinner during one of the hectic days, and that's how it started. Knowing her, I got to know Jules was a very bright student and brilliant academically, but due to her family issues, she couldn't complete her education. Her father was an addict and her mother was hardly present. Jules had to take care of her sibling and household chores while her mother slogged 2 jobs to feed 4 children. Jules couldn't pursue college because she had to take up jobs to support her family. I felt so bad and wanted to help her because she deserved to become what she always thought as a child, and so I decided to fund her college and help her with the college expenses. She denied taking any help from me and said that she would save and have it on her own. She had been working for 5 years, and looking at her savings rate, it wasn't a realistic plan at all. This was not her fault at all because she had to send a substantial amount of her salary to her house. After a lot of analyzing and discussing, she agreed. Last autumn, she started college, and she moved to the college dorm, which was in the adjacent city. We have met only twice after her college during her holidays, and she was happy to get back to studies after so many years. During her last semester break, she visited me. This time she told me about her worries, that she was not able to fit in college society and was left out because she didn't have as many resources as other girls. I asked her not to worry about things like that and to focus on her academics. She immediately got annoyed at me for not understanding how embarrassing it is sometimes when all her friends head out for the night, but she couldn't because she could not afford it. She said it was not just about one odd night, but a regular thing. Her friends and classmates wore the latest fashion while she felt outdated. Ever since she started college, she became very body conscious and tried hard to fit in with the so-called college society norms. I assured her that I was able to understand her feelings, but advised her that instead of feeling it in this way, she should be grateful that she was in college and now would be able to earn better jobs. Her situation makes sense as she never had those lifestyles or stuff as a kid and was completely abandoned. So it was her complete right to live her life, but I find her behavior rather immature. She should have understood that her situation was not like others who were parents funded. To cheer her up, I took her out to one of the most happening cafes in the town. Jules saw a few of her college mates and asked me to go to somewhere else. I asked her what's wrong if they see us together, but she held my hand tightly and told me that she was not wearing a proper dress and that she didn't want any of them to see her like that. I got really frustrated at her behavior, but didn't say a word that might hurt her and left the cafe. This was not just one incident. She's getting more into materialistic and superficial stuff. She has also been acting too rebellious and unpredictable these days. Day by day, her desires were getting out of my pocket, and it's not like I didn't have money, but her actions were rather immature. The money that I gave her for emergency funds, she started wasting it on useless things. Now, if I refuse her for anything, it leads her to have an extreme emotional breakdown and victim play of calling herself a poor and unlucky woman, which I hated the most about her personality. No matter how much I loved her, I would never disagree with the fact that it was a straight emotional manipulation, and even when I was doing everything for her, she didn't really appreciate it. She always played a victim card on me, which melted my heart and led me to do things that made me uncomfortable doing so. After the argument, there were still a few days left for her college to start, but she left, giving me the false excuse that she was in need of money and wanted to do a side hustle. I asked her not to waste her strength earning for stupid things, to make good use of her time, and to do her best academically. I also asked her not to lose focus on the important thing that she was always dreamed of. She again got annoyed at me for not understanding her point of view, so I asked her to do whatever she wanted. She blamed me for not letting her live the life. I had to remind her that I was funding money for her education and not to help her lifestyle. She started crying and told me that I was looking down on her for being poor and not privileged enough like me. I apologized and asked her to stay, but she didn't and left the same night. I'm a very private, introverted person and stay off the addiction to social media. So was Jules. Earlier, she used to be so busy in her life with work and household chores that she didn't have time for mindless social media scrolling. But after getting into college, She has become addicted to following trends and being part of a fast-paced society, and being a social butterfly was one of them. The other day I got a call from Jules for immediate help, that she needs money to participate in a science competition. I got really happy and asked her to tell me the amount, which I would send right away. She told me it was $500, and I stopped thinking for a minute. I have also participated in a science competition, but they never asked for such a huge amount for a science competition. I tasked her with telling me why she needed the amount of money and told her not to lie. She remained silent and hung up the call. I called her again and again, but she didn't respond, and my irritation was above the bar. Her attitude was unbearable, and instead of being grateful and appreciative, she was making me feel like I was not doing enough for her. Even though she was the person who was continuously lying and hiding things, she made me feel like I was the culprit. Her attitude is making me anxious. Earlier, we used to call and FaceTime each other regularly, but after that fight, she didn't call or text me for many days. I decided not to call or text her this time and wait for her to do so, and if she didn't, I would visit her at the college. After a week, I got a text from her saying that she was busy with her assignments and that she would call me at night. I stayed up late until the end of the night, waiting for her to call, but she didn't. A few days later, I got a text from my school friend Jacob, who is in the same city as Jules' college. He said he was at a party last weekend and there were so many people from my girlfriend's university. He said he saw a woman at the party who looked like Jules, but it was too dark and she was drunk and with a guy, so he didn't approach her. That really sparked my curiosity, so I asked him if he had any pictures. It was indeed Jules, wearing a very inappropriately revealing dress, drooling over a guy, drunk. It felt so disgusting to see her like that because she never touched alcohol. I zoomed in again and again to make sure it was her because obviously it was hard to believe that person you love turns out to be completely different. Look, I'm not a controlling type of person, but hiding something from your partner is actually considered a form of cheating. My stomach dropped when I witnessed such a thing. I never went to parties without her, or if I ever did, Jules knew and created a drama out of it, and now she was doing the complete opposite of what she asked me to do. The same night I got a call from her, and we finally had a conversation for hours. She told me about her college stuff and that she had a full week off. The whole time I was talking to her, I was waiting for her to talk about the party, but she didn't. I couldn't hold myself and asked her about it. Man, she denied it outrightly and told me that she doesn't like having parties at all. I was just so shocked at her nonchalant lies. I feel done with her right now. Whoa, that's a lot to take in with someone you don't really know right away. I feel like that's a short amount of time to offer up something like that to someone. And the fact that she keeps asking for money or is upset she can't go out with her friends is a red flag. I mean, as you said, when you're in school and you desperately want to go to school and someone you know is helping you financially, the least of your worries should be going out to parties. You should be focused on your studies and grateful for that. Update 1. So, I visited her college. I guess I was delusional about ignoring such things, so I finally decided to make a surprise visit to her college and see what's the matter with her. It was clear that something like that was going to happen sooner or later, and honestly, deep down I was prepared for that. After reaching her, I called her, but she didn't respond to my calls. I got really mad at her for doing this to me. I mean, it was not just about missing one call. I called her multiple times for almost more than an hour, and she kept ignoring me. What if there was some sort of emergency? Her behavior was alarming, and I could not predict or draw any conclusions. I checked into a hotel. She called me the same night, and I told her that I waited for her outside her dorm. Her response was cold towards me. Instead of being sorry about her carelessness, she just said she was busy. We had a huge argument on this, and I hung up the call. After a while, God knows what she thought, she called me. I ignored it. After several calls, when I finally responded, she apologized and asked for my location. She was there in my hotel room within an hour. She looked exhausted and her eyes were red as if she hadn't slept for days. She told me that she was just going with her friends and exploring the cities, and her phone was silent. She apologized to me for being careless and then I let it slide. Hearing her out, I felt she was not the same person anymore. She was never the extroverted, outgoing party animal she has now become. Her desire to fit in with the college environment and peer pressure were the biggest red flags of hers. I asked her again if she had gone out to that party, the one which my friend had mentioned, and she immediately denied it. I took out my phone and showed her the picture. She couldn't process what happened and remained silent, with teary eyes. I asked her who the guy was. She started to cry. She told me it was her friend's birthday and she couldn't refuse, and out of peer pressure, she had a few drinks. I told her that she could have told me the truth the first time I questioned her, but I don't know why she hid this from me. She held me and said that she couldn't refuse her friend's request, and didn't want to tell me because I would get angry. I laughed and asked her, what happens now? Hiding did more damage to our relationship. What else could she be hiding? She kept defending herself, and we just sat there, not talking to each other. Finally, I told her that I didn't hate her, and I just wanted her to be honest with me. I don't remember the last time we had sex, and it created more suspicions in me because whenever I tried to initiate, she would shut me off. Half of the time, she was texting on her phone and told me it was her friends. I was so heartbroken that she was not even happy for a single moment to spend time with me. Her stuff was pretty expensive, and she was wearing an expensive watch. I asked her where she got them, and she told me that she won a few awards in that science competition, and the watch was one of them. I was very disappointed that she didn't even care to inform me about such things, as if she was losing interest in me. She only texted me whenever she needed money or had an emergency. Anyway, we finally made out, and she told me she was tired and slept on the other side of the bed. She never let me touch her phone. Earlier, she was not so guarded about her phone. It used to lie there, and she wasn't bothered if I used it to Google or check the calendar or so. But now the way she was guarding her phone, it was suspicious. After she was asleep, I opened her phone and checked the gallery. There was nothing really suspicious, just she and her friends. I checked the phone and saw a whole lot of social media apps. We never had any of these apps earlier. After joining the college, she told me she was on Facebook, but now seeing all sorts of social media apps was alarming. Also, she never told me about her virtual presence. She seemed to be too active on nearly all these platforms. I opened her Instagram account, and there were her pictures of clubs and many more things that were not in her gallery. And that was unbelievable. She broke my trust very badly. Naturally, my curiosity got the best of me, and I looked through her DMs. There was nothing to see until something caught my eye. It was a restricted account named Michael. My hands were shivering while opening the text, and it had an eerie vibe. So I finally checked on the text, and there it was, the truth behind her behavior. The last text was that she was going to her parents' house, and his reply was that he would see her soon, baby. She told him that she was going to her parents when she was actually with me. He was the same guy who was sitting next to her in that picture my friend showed. It was devastating. I did everything for her, just for her to betray and cheat on me. I read the whole chat, and it was her senior. They shared nudes with each other and had sex. She also demanded expensive things from him in return, which I failed to do. I realized that all her excuses of being busy with assignments and extra classes were nothing but a lie of lies to sell her body for a few accessories. I tried my best to help her make her future and be a stable and independent woman, and I didn't realize that she actually went pretty low to sell herself off for a few materialistic things. She sold our relationship just to be a social butterfly in college. I was disappointed and surprised because she always had high moral values, but I guess it was all an act. There were text messages where she said that she missed him and sexted. I couldn't stand reading any more of it, so I pretty much freaked out, had no idea what to do, and sat there like a ghost for an hour. I took everything on my phone for proof and decided to ditch her immediately. I wasn't in for any negotiation. Confrontations meant, again, a bunch of lies, and I'm just done with her. It was hard for me to process, but I packed everything and left while she was asleep. I spent the rest of the night sitting alone at the station and took the first train back to my home. The next day, she called me and texted me, but I refused to do anything and just laid back under the circumstances before I decided to cut all the connections off from her, which also meant no money for the college fee. Her fee was due for the next week, and the whole week I kept ignoring her and dealing with the harsh truth on my own. Trust me, it was the cruelest crap that ever happened to me. I got a text from her asking about her college fees. When I was finally done ghosting her, I texted her that I was breaking up with her, and she could take care of her fees on her own. She tried contacting me through mutual friends. I already told everyone what happened and asked them not to entertain her. She deserves to be on the street after the crap she pulled and manipulated me both mentally and physically. The next day, she showed up at my house. Gladly, I wasn't home. My roommate called me that Jules was there. Yeah, I had a new roommate after Jules moved out for her college. I told him to say that I wasn't in town and didn't know when I would return. I did the same as she did to me back then. She called me nonstop, and I didn't respond. I stayed at my friend's place that night. The next day, when I returned home, my roommate asked me to speak to Jules. She was crying profusely and was really guilty of her actions. He told me that peer pressure sometimes makes us do unethical and immature things. I just nodded. He knew our relationship from the surface, but I know how much she has changed, and it was just not about peer pressure. She wasn't 18. She's a grown-up woman and should have known how to keep herself grounded in a situation like that, but she didn't. I think, like you said, if she was really in a bind, she should have said something to you. Turns out she's not as humble as you thought. She wanted the best of the best, and you were really just feeding it to her. I don't want to say you were enabling her, and not only that, but she was definitely taking advantage of the fact that you worship the ground she walked on. Update 2. I thought she would get her clues from my ghosting, but she didn't. She kept texting me, asking for closure, asking for a reason for ghosting her, for breaking up with her. Not only once, but multiple times she showed up at my house. Sometimes when I used to be at home, I didn't answer the door and left her standing outside, but she didn't deter. Ultimately, I had to give up and meet her. What could I do? She was bothering all our mutual friends and my roommate to the point that they requested me to get it done with it. I called her, and the way she responded seemed like she had just placed her finger on the answer button, waiting for my call. It made me laugh at the realization of how she used to ignore my calls. As soon as she heard my voice, she started crying and pleading with me not to do this. She started with those classic lines of "I couldn't live without you," "I had dreamt about our future," "You cannot ruin this," and all that. I told her to cut the crap out because I'm no longer falling for her fake emotions. I told her I was done being her ATM. She considered me as the source of her money and nothing else. She acted confused and asked me what I was saying. I told her that she could continue with Michael and that he was providing better amenities than I was. After hearing his name, she went silent. She said there was a misunderstanding and pleaded to meet me once. She said, "Let's sit and sort this out." It sounded hilarious to me. I was like, "Babe, I'm done sorting out with you. I'm out of your way. You can do whatever you want with your life and your body." She tried her last bet of manipulating me using her victim card. She said that, if you cut me off, I would never be able to graduate from college. I said, "Fine, by me. Not my problem anymore." I hung up the call. She called me a couple of times after that, but she stopped bothering my friends and roommate after that. It's been more than a month since then, and I'm no contact with her since I ghosted her, and I plan to remain so. I'm just moving on with my life, and I don't think about her anymore. It's unfortunate that she quite literally threw her future away. She really did have it all. Greed is a dream killer. Update 3. Thanks for all the support. I'm in a much better place mentally. I have moved on. I took a solo trip to the mountains last month, and it gave me a lot of mental peace. This is going to be a super mini update. Yesterday was my friend's engagement party. There, I got to catch up with other friends, some of them mutual to Jules. I got to know that Jules had dropped out of college, and she was back in the city working as a receptionist at some small office. It wasn't shocking because I knew that would happen. Looked like it was just all for fun with Michael, but when he was done, he moved on. He is a 20-year-old rich lad. What else do you expect him to do? Marry her and pay for her college fees? She got what she deserved. She bargained her future for temporary adrenaline and expensive items just to show off and come cool in front of her college peers. Spend your money on yourself, OP. Let that be a lesson. And not only that, but it's not always about money. Yes, we like to think we can fix people and be the hero, but sometimes we have to sit back and let life just happen for people. We can't always be the hero. What do you make of all this? Would you ever pay for someone else's education? Why or why not? Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you soon on rSpace.